You mentioned in your lecture the difference between helpers and partners in youth ministry. Can you share more about that here?
You bet. One of the challenges we have with volunteers is that we recruit people to be our little helpers. So the difference between a partner and a helper from my perspective is who owns the responsibility to take the next step. If it's a helper, I have to ask you every time. So
Sure.
if you're going to help with, youth group snack supper, I got to say, could you pick up tacos this week? Then the next week I got to say, could you bring chips? Then right?
Yeah.
A partner calls me and says, can you give me that calendar so I know what weeks we're off so I have food prepared for every week? Right?
Yeah.
And so we often set ourselves up for sort of a management nightmare. There's so many people, it's so common in youth ministry to have somebody say, well, I'll be happy to help out if you need me. Just call me when you need me to sub.
Right.
Well, you need those subs, but you don't want to build your ministry on helpers.
Sure.
So to start with, I just like to see churches start their recruiting process by owning what are the partners they need. So now here's a problem. When you have partners, they have opinions.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's allowing them to take the work on for themselves, really.
Yeah.
And then once they do that for a season, they have thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Right? As
So
opposed to picking up the pickles for the potluck.
Had a beautiful leadership team working, let's just say they were working with the 9th and 10th graders.
Okay.
So let's say we had 3 leadership teams. And, so they were teaching their Sunday school, and I was changing the format because I thought, okay, we're going to all meet together, and we're going to, I had a new plan, right? The new leaders were like, oh, sure, that sounds fine to me.
Right.
My partner leaders, they were like, no. You're not doing that to our kids. These are our kids.
Yep.
And so it makes it much more difficult when we have partners, which is why most insecure young leaders will not recruit partners. They'll recruit helpers who can do a one-off thing so they don't bother them, right?
Sure.
So we have to have some, a little bit of toughness to be able to say, yeah, I appreciate that, but we're going to try this experiment. Again, what we ended up doing in that situation is we did a small bet. We say, okay, we won't make this a wholesale change. We're going to do 6 weeks during Lent and see how it goes, right?
Right.
So, what we suggest is don't recruit any helpers. Let your partners recruit helpers.
Sure.
So, let's just say you're recruiting Sunday school teachers and you want, two in each of 3 classes. And then what we say to them once they're in is we say, we either give them, here's your pool of possible substitutes, or you can line up your own substitutes. But the idea is they are the ones that begin to know more about what's happening in those kids' lives than I am. A lot of churches imagine that the greatest thing in the world is for the youth director to be the relational savant and know everything that's going on with every kid.
Right.
I just want the volunteers to know when grandma dies, to know when the kid wins the tennis tournament, when they have a big test coming up. And a lot of times because of this, the way we get into this, loving, relational ministry, we often fail to build the infrastructure that kids are actually known and tended to into the details of their lives.
Yeah, which involves a letting go of the person who is often in the youth director or youth position to train the disciples, really, and empower them to do that ministry themselves. That involves some serious differentiation on the part of the leader to be able to let go of the reins a little bit and let things evolve and grow in many ways.
Yeah, and it's letting go of the illusion.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was talking to Andy Root when one of his early books came out about relational ministry, and I just said, okay, so how many people can one person place share with?
Yeah.
And he said, 3 or 4.
So interesting.
So we have this sense of, oh yeah, the youth director's going to know every kid and know all those details, when in fact it's just not possible.
Yeah.
So what happens is kids get left behind.
Hmm.
And if a youth director could do it, well, it wouldn't be the best, but I'd sing the doxology. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But part of what causes burnout in youth pastors is that they feel like they've got to own all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, what would happen? The kid's getting his appendix out, and the first call is not to the youth pastor, but to the Sunday school teacher,
Yeah.
or the prayer partner, or the elder friend from confirmation.
Right.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the youth pastor then becomes one of a whole constellation of adults, and the youth pastor, frankly, is most expendable.
Yep.
They're the one that's least likely to hang around.
Yeah.
The rest of
That's
these
right.
people are permanent.
Mm-hmm.
The youth pastor is going to be an orphaning structure
Yeah.
in the game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So to be able to elevate the perspective and say, I want to get partners, and it doesn't have to be an onerous big job, but I can get partners who are willing to carry a piece of this ministry and fully own that piece and own the next step, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah. Thanks.